Good evening. So glad you guys came. We are excited to introduce to you more healthy recipes, plant-based, as well as give another health talk this evening. Before we start, let's begin with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for bringing us together this evening. And Lord, I just pray that you be with us, open our minds to how to take better care of our bodies and learn more recipes that we can enjoy, healthy cooking, as well as be more thoughtful with what we eat and how we care for our health. Lord, thank you for Bonnie and for Gordon, and we just trust you with this evening. In Jesus' powerful name, amen.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Bonnie Lemon, and I want to thank you all for coming. You all look healthy and strong. So we're going to add to some recipes that will probably enhance your appetite and continue to be on a track for living healthfully. This one, I'm going to demonstrate part of the Peruvian soup recipe first. It was introduced to me a couple years ago, and I just fell in love with it. So if you don't mind, you can follow along. I have done most of the cooking prior to here, but I'm going to do the blending of some of the ingredients, and then I'm going to explain why I'm doing like that. Okay? So when you start out with this Peruvian rice soup, you saute the poblano peppers. And what I do with them, all of the peppers that I saute, I blanch them, or not blanch them, but I roast them under the broiler in my oven first. And then I put them in a plastic bag, and the heat and the moisture from that poblano and the serrano peppers will create an atmosphere for it to be really easy for you to take the peeling off. So I don't cook it with the peeling. I take the peeling off, and then I put it on a stovetop, and I saute that and some white onion, and then this serrano, and I take the seeds off because I don't like it real hot. If you like really hot food, then you don't take the seeds out, but I take the seeds out because I don't like it that hot. And you take 5 to 6 pieces of garlic cloves, and I chop it up a little bit, and I put a little bit of vegetable broth in it because we're not using oil. We want to have an oil-free recipe here, and so that's why we just use some vegetable broth. And then while that's getting clear, the onion is getting a little bit clear, I am chopping up the next set of ingredients: the potatoes, the carrots, the brown rice. I've rinsed that off and put that in a kettle with zucchini and your cannellini beans, and I put 5 to 6 cups of vegetable broth and a couple of cups of water, just depending on how thick you want it to be. You can add more or less water. And so I get that cooking, and then I take the first 5 ingredients and put them in my blender, and I let them cool in the blender. And what I did is I did all of this up this morning, and we will put the things that were in the kettle that steamed a little bit, put that in here, and We will imagine that our vegetables are still cooking. And then what I will do is I will take and blend this up. We're going to put some water, or you can use some vegetable broth, and that's what I decided to use this evening. I'll put that in. And then I was going to use McKay's chicken seasoning, but we found out it had oil, so we made our own recipe up, and it's at the bottom down here, and it truly tastes like McKay's chicken seasoning. So I was kind of hesitant about doing it, but I was so pleased with the end result. So you put in 2 tablespoons of your mock McKay's. And then I put in 2 teaspoons of cumin. And I guess heck, I'm going to put all of it in. Then it's empty. Don't like to waste anything. So put that in. And then what I do is I blend that up a tiny bit. And make sure that's cooked. Okay. That looks kind of tasteless, doesn't it? I think it looks gross. So what the recipe calls for is cilantro. And I put some cilantro in it, and we'll blend that up. Okay. And then the first time I made it, I put only cilantro in. But once it started to cook up again, it started to turn a little bit brown. And I thought, spinach is tasteless. I mean, it's a leafy vegetable that you can put in almost anything, and it doesn't change the flavor. So I put spinach in, and I'm going to put all of this in, and we're going to see what color it turns out to be. Okay, and then we pour it in the soup, and you will soon be getting servings of this. And I have a boy that helps me. I don't think he's here tonight. His name is Leo, and he's from Peru. And so I didn't get the recipe from him, but he has given me some input on how it should taste. And I think that we've got it down to a T. Okay, so here we go. I can do it again. I need a spoon, something to oh, never mind, it's happening. It's happening. Okay, so let me just get this down in here. Okay. Okay, so the last thing that I put in is I put lime in. And that gives it such a wonderful, fresh flavor. And if you happen to have it left over, some leftover, you might want to add, if you serve it again, you might like to add a little bit of extra lime a following day. So it says that you can put 1 to 2. I like to put 2 because I just love the flavor of the lime. Oh dear, this is always such a challenge. Here we go. Okay. And then we'll whiz it up a little bit more, and I'll give it to the girls in the kitchen. Oh, here, I'm sorry. Okay, so that blends that up, and now they're ready to put that. I always put this in at the very end. So your soup is nice and green, and it's delightful. And another thing that I will do is I'll put some red peppers in them, just the sweet peppers, just to give it some extra color. Okay? Yes?
You chose to take the skins off the peppers.
I did. That's why I roast them first. I put them under the broiler, the poblanos.
Can you leave the skins on?
Well, I never have. You can try it.
I just figured if you blend it.
Yeah, you can. I thought about that today, but I thought, well, I've always done it this way. I'm going to, the old-fashioned way, I guess. Okay, so have her put it in the right kettle, okay? So the next thing, because this is November, and traditionally we are, because of our holiday coming up, Thanksgiving, I don't eat chicken and I don't eat turkey, and Thanksgiving Day comes and we're always wondering what we're going to make. So I thought I'm going to share something with you that I think might be an alternative to a turkey dinner on Thanksgiving Day. And on the back side, there is a recipe called the vegan patty or meatballs. And it is a very flexible recipe that you can use. The first 8, well, we're going to start with the 7 and 8 products right here because I did not put any oil in it, and I didn't use any eggs. And sometimes when you make food, you need to have something that's going to bind your product together. And so I know that flax seed is very binding. So what I did, and I took some hemp because I just like hemp. And I blended up 3 tablespoons of flax seed and 3 tablespoons of hemp seed, ground it up flat, put a little bit of water with that, and it kind of comes to a gel, okay? And I set that aside. And then what I did is I put in my food processor, I put a can of that cannellini bean, well drained, and some cooked lentils, some quinoa, and 3 to 5 garlic cloves. If you like garlic, you can add more. And I do. I add more. And it says a medium white onion. If I get a big fat onion, I'll use it too. Okay? And then 1 to 2 cups of rolled oats. And so I put that in the food processor and I blend that up. Not so that it's liquid, but that it's just blended together. And then I take that out of the food processor and I put it in a big bowl. And then I add, where it says add a cup of cooked brown rice and some finely chopped walnuts, or you can do pecans, or if you have, sometimes I'll even put pumpkin seed. You know, it's up to you, what you like. It's flexible enough that you don't have to follow this recipe to the T. If you don't have an ingredient, you're welcome to use something a little bit different, okay? And then a cup of shredded or chopped zucchini, really fine, and then shredded carrots. I made 2 different batches of the patties for you to try, and one of the patties does not have any carrot in it. And I'm happy I tried the second batch with carrot because it just took away from the sharpness of the oregano that I had put in it. It just had a nice softer taste to it. And then you can put some finely chopped green peppers or red peppers that are sweet. I don't use hot peppers in this recipe. And then what I did is I just blended it up by hand and mixed it up. And what you want to have it come out to look like is you want to be able to have it look something like this. So it keeps its shape, and you can put them, stack them on a cookie sheet. I have, because you're not using any oil, I purchased this a couple of years ago. I use this on everything. I use it when I make cookies. I use it when I make patties. It saves my cookie sheet from having to get all ugly and cooked on. So this is a wonderful thing, and I just laid those on there and baked them at 400 for 23 to 25 minutes. So that's how I make those patties, okay? And if you like parsley, you could add parsley to this as a seasoning. It's just a very basic recipe, and I think it's healthy for you. So then after I've got all that added and blended up in the big kettle, then I add the basil or the oregano. You can add marjoram, you can add thyme, you can just whatever seasonings you enjoy, experiment. But that's kind of the basic of what you do, okay? And then you add Bragg's liquid aminos to that to make it nice and salty. I don't add much salt with this. I use mostly the aminos. Do you know what aminos is? Everybody know what aminos is? Do I get nods? Do you know what aminos is back there? No. Can somebody bring the aminos out so I can show them? Aminos is a nice flavoring for vegetable soups, for all kinds of things. It's just a nice basic that I have in my kitchen. Wanda, I need aminos. I need that aminos container. I think it's in the box in the back. Yes?
I'm curious, do the balls kind of hold together after cooking?
Pardon?
Do the meatballs and the patties hold together after cooking? Or do they
Look
fall
at them.
apart?
You're all going to get a sample, okay? They do. They do not. I think that I would be careful not to put them in a casserole and bake them in a casserole. These are designed to go like over noodles or over rice, and then a marinara sauce if you want to have it on noodles. This is what liquid aminos is. You can get it at the health food store. You can also get it at Fred Meyer's, and I even think that Winco is starting to sell it. It's a staple at my house. So, and then you can also, we're going to serve it to you with a apricot barbecue sauce. We'll have a little bit of that on. You're going to get two patties. One is going to have the apricot barbecue sauce that I got from Chip. Is a health program, and the other one is going to be a cashew recipe that I made. That's a sauce. So did anybody have any questions?
Do you estimate your preparation time and cooking time on these?
I didn't.
I just thought maybe off the top of your head, it could be 15, 20 minutes, half hour.
I would say the soup takes about an hour and a half, okay, from start to finish.
I'm just very slow cutting things, and I was just wondering how long. You got a lot of stuff that's
The
kind of cut
patties,
up and
The patty, the meatballs?
Yeah. And it seem like all these recipes have a lot of cooking, chopping and cutting and slicing. And just wonder what the estimate was.
I got a Pampered Chef chopper. That thing's really slick. It cut my potato and my dicing of vegetables in half. Yeah, I was not in the kitchen that long, but generally when I start cooking, I cook a whole day and then I freeze stuff because I don't like to cook that much. I'm being honest with you, but I can't hear you. Yeah, just a minute.
What's on top of it? Or what's the sauce that you made?
She said that. What is the sauce?
The sauce that you made.
Oh, is it the barbecue sauce? Oh, that is a cashew. That is a cashew
Okay.
Sauce. It's made with Bragg's and cashews, onion, garlic, water. Yeah, and yeah. The seasoning of that cashew dressing is all Bragg's. And it is the recipe that I originally got advertised or says to use onion flakes, but I just use the real onions. And if you're blending it up, you don't have to chop them up. And I don't saute anything for that cashew dressing. I just put it all in the blender raw and blend it up, and we enjoy it. And I make like chipped beef on toast, and I use that cashew dressing with that too. My family, they love it. And I didn't provide you with that recipe, but I can get that so you can have it for next week. I do know when Wanda gave a cashew recipe about a week or so ago, and you can try that. Okay? Yes?
The barbecue sauce, is this a store-bought or do you make the barbecue?
The barbecue sauce, I will have a recipe there. It's a container, a quart size of apricot juice and some apricot jam with bullseye barbecue, and I don't remember what the other, a Kraft barbecue. You just put, and I don't like it real strong, so I make mine just so you can barely taste it. So, any other questions? Yes. Just a minute, let him bring this.
Thank you. For the apricot barbecue sauce, do you simmer it down a little bit or just mix it all together?
Now say that again.
Do you simmer the apricot juice and the barbecue sauce together or just mix it?
I mix them together.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I cook it, and if it needs to have some cornstarch in it to thicken it up a little bit, I'll do that. Yeah. Yeah. Carol had a question.
I didn't hear what you said about the Bragg's. It's a substitute for soy sauce, and it's not fermented like soy sauce
Right,
is.
it is
so it's
not
a lot better
fermented,
for
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No question.
Yep. Yeah. I don't have any soy sauce in my kitchen anymore. I love the Bragg's. Yeah. Yes.
Everything was so delicious. My kids loved it,
Oh,
and
thank
so
you.
we will definitely include this in our
Yeah. Well, enjoy.
rotation. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, in Peru, when they serve that soup, they either serve it with popcorn. That's why we had the popcorn tonight, or they do it with crackers. I just thought it would be fun to go someplace else and enjoy food from somewhere else. Okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought at one time the only way you could sample this food and taste this delicious food was to be invited and be a friend of Bonnie. And you guys got lucky. You got
Everybody's my friend.
Yeah, so I've had the Peruvian and I've had the other treats here,
Yeah.
and they're delicious. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for demonstrating
Thank
that
you.
to us. And I know she spent a lot of time making this program for us. I wanna
Well,
give her a-
let me say everyone is worth it, okay? You're all precious, and thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, I think at this point in time, I was going to have Scott Harder come up and say a few words about how he tries to control his diabetes. He has some lab work. He's been kind enough to talk about this and not be embarrassed. And but Scott is not a diabetic, but he could easily become a diabetic. And so that's why I wanted to show this to everybody.
Thank you. Oh, I think I fell all over myself. I can't.
So you recognize those labs?
I think so.
Okay.
I would just point out that, like I said a few months ago, that
The mic's not on.
Yeah. Here, let me try it for you real quick. Should be. Testing one. Good. Got it.
yeah, I would just say that a few months ago, I had noticed throughout my 40s, my fasting blood sugar was creeping close to 100. And then I changed my diet about 3 years ago, and it went down dramatically. And other things I noticed with my blood test was way better than it was, and it's just proof that if you stick with the diet, it really does improve a lot of things in your health. You can't deny the results either.
Those are excellent results. I wish those were my numbers. Yeah, I really do. I'm going to show you mine because they're pretty bad. But they have significantly improved. Yeah. Is there anything? Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to go over what we learned from last month. And again, it's about the blue zones. So the blue zone was named after the blue marking pins that were utilized to put these diagrams together, where there's 3 circles. One was from Okinawa, Japan, another one is Sardinia, Italy, and the other one is Loma Linda in California, USA. And they found characteristics about these blue zone areas. People lived usually about 10 years beyond. So the average American lives to about 86 years, and these people were living 96 to 100. And they wanted to find out why they were living longer. So they funded this, and they went to the countries where this was. The only place in the US was in Loma Linda. All the other places were like Italy, Japan, Costa Rica, and there was, I think it was Greece. And so they found the characteristics of what they had in common. And what was in common, all 3 of them had, was they don't smoke, they put the family first, they're active every day, so they actually led a life where they were still working outdoors, like growing crops or vegetables or whatever they were doing. And they kept socially engaged, so they kept in touch with their families and their friends, and that was important. And the other one was they eat a lot of vegetables, fruits, and grains. And that was very, very common for all 3 of those zones. And there were some other things that were only common in 2, like, for example, high soy consumption, no alcohol, whole grains, culturally, I think it says initiated. And the other ones, In other words, not all three areas had it, but at least 2 of them had things like that. So in other words, soy was common in at least 2 of them. So that was really important. So they felt that this was really important in keeping people living longer. So I just want to remind you again what this blue zone is. So that falls back to what we're talking about for our diabetes and high blood pressure and the foods that we eat. Okay, I'm going to move on. So today what we're going to talk about is diabetes. And we're talking about reversing diabetes, how to treat diabetes, addressing pre-diabetes. So see what pre-diabetes is, and learning about terminology. It's hard to know how to treat it if you don't understand the terms. So some of the terms would be like insulin resistant, glycemic index. Have people heard about hemoglobin 1AC? Okay, I see a lot of people have. But you have to know this. And I want to say one more thing. We're reversing diabetes. We're not trying to make your life longer, but we're trying to give you a better quality of life. So you don't have as much suffering or pain or problems ranging from either we call autoimmune diseases, where your body attacks your own body. I mean, your own immune system attacks your own body. And so we're trying to make it better for you so you can live a better quality of life. Okay, so there's a lot of people who have diabetes. Like 37 million people in the US have diabetes, and most of it, like 95% of it, is type 2. So I don't think there's anybody in here has a type 1. But there are people out there that have type 1. And it's like 1 in 10 of people in the United States have diabetes. And there's also 96 million people in the US have pre-diabetes, and they don't even know it. I think that's what I had before it suddenly became full-blown. Okay, diabetes symptoms. So are people, when they're really, really in the last parts of where the diabetes has gotten really bad, they have extreme thirst, they're feeling tired all the time because they don't have any energy, the glucose is going the wrong place. They're still feeling very hungry, even after just ate a meal. And they have blurry vision because it affects the vision too. And they go to the bathroom all the time because the glucose is it's causing the blood or the urine water to go with it. So you'll spill glucose into the urine. That's what they call about sugar urine, or that's why the urine smells or tastes sugary. And they have sores or cuts that don't heal. That's what I used to see when I was in orthopedics. We had a lot of that. The wounds just wouldn't heal, so we had to try everything we could do to try to make those wounds heal. And they had neuropathy. I don't know I hope nobody has that. Neuropathy means that you can't feel your own feet, so that means you can stub it, and you can get a cut, and you won't even know you got a cut. Or you actually have a painful foot. Your toe is painful, or something like that. And so those are some of the diabetes symptoms. I'm going to start talking about type 1. Nobody has it here, so I'm not going to even spend too much time on it. But type 1 is your pancreas doesn't make insulin. So they're usually in kids, and the kids usually don't last as long, but the technology has gotten better. They actually do live a little longer. Before, it was really hard to control their blood sugars because the pancreas didn't make any insulin at all. They absolutely have none. And they did find one thing about it, that the reason type 1s occur, type 1 diabetics, is usually autoimmune disease. They got some kind of virus, or they got something triggered their body to put their immune system, so it ate up the insulin producing cells in your pancreas. So that's what they mean by that. Or they got an illness for some reason and then they ate up the cells that produce the insulin. And they usually related to, they found this, and I was surprised, I didn't know it, from drinking cow's milk before the age of 1 year old. So they have regular cow's milk, so not soy milk, not almond milk, but regular cow's milk. And so to the point that the American Academy of Pediatricians, which is all the pediatricians belong to this if they pass all their tests, and they come out and put a statement out saying, don't feed cow's milk to kids under 1 year of age. Otherwise, you're going to put them at risk for developing type 1 diabetes. So the milk is not a good thing for cow's milk, I should say. So this is the one I have, type 2. I've got type 2 diabetes, adult onset. And it's 90% of the diabetics have it, and it usually comes around 50, and that's probably right. When I left the military, I was in my early 50s, and the numbers were starting to come up. I could see it coming. I was kind of ignoring it. And so, you also get older, and it coincided with me gaining weight too. So I was about 40 pounds more than I was now after I left the military, and over time I just gained weight. So the problem is there's plenty of insulin, but the insulin is not working. So I'll say it again. Insulin is there, but it's not doing its job. So that's the problem. So there's a thing called insulin resistance, and I know Vance was asking me about that. Where is he? He asked me to say something about this. So insulin resistance. And then the other thing is half the diabetics in the country don't know they have diabetes. They don't even know it. Like I didn't know. I could say that maybe my diabetes started about 2 years ago, but actually probably started about 10 years ago. I'm 67. So it started in my mid-50s. Okay, there's a new type of diabetes, and it's a 1.5, and a lot of children are getting diagnosed with it, and it requires dual treatment. I'm not going to go into it. I don't think anybody here has it. I don't think so. But it's mainly type 2 that we're concerned about. Okay, so diabetes affects the following areas. And I'm not using to scare you, because then maybe if you see some symptoms popping up, you'll say, oh, maybe I do have something. So it clogs up the arteries in the heart, and I do have that. They ran a scan on my heart, and I've got little, what they call plaques on my heart. They see it. They didn't try to figure out how much it was. They just could see it because it already started closing down my arteries in my heart. And I have a little bit in my neck, the carotid arteries, the two, right and left side. And it's in your brain. I think I have a little bit of that in my brain because they scanned my brain. They just happened to scan it. And you're doubling the risk of having a heart attack or a stroke if you have this starting to affect you. Actually, 5 times as much risk. It affects your hearing because it's clotting off those arteries and stuff that feed the blood supply. I'll just say that you're going to have sexual issues. It says sexual dysfunction. Intermittent claudication means that the blood vessel in the leg is not getting enough blood. So when you walk a certain distance, it's usually the set distance, set activity, it starts cramping up in your leg. You can't do it. Now, I kind of have that, but I think I confuse it to be that I'm not in shape or something. You think, well, I'm just not in shape. That's why I'm cramping up. I can't walk that far. But it is part of that. You also get gangrene, poor blood flow, and into the foot and leg, which can lead to amputations, because that's what can happen. So that's why you don't want it. And then for the eyes, this says about 8 out of 10 diabetics will have eye problems. So you're supposed to have eye checks. I used to get some eye checks. I need one this year. It's near the end of the year. And it's the leading cause of blindness in developing countries. Okay, and then it affects the kidneys. So about 50% of the dialysis patient, so my mom's goes dialysis. I would agree. About 50% of those people are going to dialysis right now in that dialysis center called the Vitas. I don't know, there's 4 or 3 of them. There's one in Pasco. They're diabetic. That's what they are. So they also have tingling and numbness of the feet and arms or the hands. And they may have digestive and bladder problems associated because the sugars affect the nerves that control the use of the bladder and the guts and the intestines. So diabetes affects a lot of stuff. It's a very expensive disease. So that's why we need to control this. Okay, what are causes of diabetes? They're genetics. My grandfather had it, my dad had it. Well, on my side of the family. It says hereditary loads the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. So the environment means that you really need to try to do what you can to reverse the genetics that's happening. They actually have a name for that. It's not just the sugar, it's the fat. So there's fat on the body and fat in the diet. And the fat usually comes from the largest source of fat in the body is animal products, unfortunately. Believe me, I was a master barbecuer. And it is a source of fat and cholesterol. I was that good at it, and I was really good at it. So you have to watch it. Okay, now we're going to talk about pre-diabetics or borderline diabetics. Who asked me about that one? It must be Vance too. Yeah. Okay, so the blood sugars are higher than normal, but they're not quite high enough to be considered a diagnosis of diabetes. And so the pancreas is still producing insulin, but the insulin is not that effective, so their sugar remains high. And so in other words, the insulin is not doing its job. That's insulin resistance. So people have that. I believe I have some of that. So 1 in 3 adults in the U.S. have pre-diabetes. That's 1 in 3. So every third person here has pre-diabetes. And 1 in 4 of the pre-diabetics will develop diabetes in about 4 years if they don't do something about it or try something to intervene. So again, the pre-diabetes is really important. There's a lot of people that have it, like 1 in 3, and they can lead on to the normal diabetes. And only about 20%, 1 in 5 of pre-diabetics even know they have it. So that's why it's so important to start getting screened or tested for it. And I'll show you what test that is. It's really simple. The risk factors for a borderline diabetic, so it's borderline, it's not really actually diabetic. You're heavy, overweight, you don't do physical activities, and you're 45 years in age or older, you have high blood pressure or cholesterol, and you have the genetics for it. So I think that was me. The causes for type 2 is protein. I'm not going to go through this again, but cow's milk protein seems for some reason trigger the type 1 diabetes in kids. Okay, and I mentioned this before, cow's milk seems to have all kinds of problems, even causing ear infections and diarrhea compared to breastfed babies. Okay, insulin resistance. It causes this thing called metabolic syndrome. Has anybody even heard of it? Like, I didn't even know. Okay, Bert knows and Ken does. And down there, yeah. I didn't even listen to or hear about it. They're starting, basically metabolic syndrome is you're more prone to become diabetic because you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart disease, and you're overweight. So they just lump it into metabolic syndrome. So it's part of the insulin resistant problem. And I'll just say it's also associated with this female. This one should have been a test question a long time ago. It's called polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, and infertility. So polycystic ovarian disease seems to have more metabolic syndrome patients. And it also causes breast, colon, and ovarian and prostate cancers. So you don't want to get metabolic syndrome. I mean, you want to control your diabetes. You want to control your cholesterol. And you want to exercise. And one more thing, it may be associated with Alzheimer's. And it's becoming more important. Even I notice that sometimes I'm starting to forget stuff. Yeah, yeah. I was really surprised. Sometimes it's not the old stuff, it's the new stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so metabolic syndrome. I'm going to click past this slide. I'm going to talk about lab testing. So there's a test. It's called a fasting blood sugar test. The fasting blood sugar test means fasting. You haven't eaten anything. So it has to be done in the morning. before you eat anything. So if you did it at 8 o'clock in the morning, that's okay. If you did it at 6 a.m., if you did it at 10 a.m. but you hadn't eaten anything, that's fine. That's your fasting one. So it's called fasting blood sugar or fasting glucose. You're not supposed to eat for about 8 to 12 hours. I don't think I ever had one you can not eat for 8 to 12 hours, but it's somewhere in that area. If you're 99 milligrams per deciliter, so it's 99 or lower, you're normal. If you're 100 to 125, you're pre-diabetic, and if you're 126 or greater, you're diabetic. So 99, 100 to 120, and anything above 125, you're diabetic. Now, I'll show you some of my numbers. So there's another one. It's called random blood sugar test. That means that you draw it any time you want to. So if somebody's looking for diabetes for you, don't do it fasting. I mean, it's a waste if you don't, because that means they just took it any time, any time, and it's not even related to the time you ate. So you're going to get numbers that are come back crazy, and you don't know what it means. So most time when you get blood draws, you probably should get it for what we call fasting. Like cholesterol is supposed to be done in fasting, and so are the sugars, rather than doing a random blood sugar. And so anyway, so they try to figure it out. And you can see the diagram, 70 to 100 is normal. 101 to 125 is high risk for prediabetes. And so the random blood sugar is not worth it. It's a waste of our time. Okay, so I want to talk about another one, hemoglobin 1AC. That's a blood test. And this one says it measures how much glucose is attached to the hemoglobin molecule on the red blood cell. So it measures how much sugar is attached to the hemoglobin of the red blood cell. And they also know that the red blood cell has a lifespan about 3 months. So when they run that test, it measures 3 months worth of red blood cells. It gives an idea of what your blood sugars are. So the glucose will attach to the red cell. So on the left-hand side, that red cell has all those yellow glucose molecules. There's like 15 of them. And then the one on the right-hand side, the red blood cell, has only 4. So that's how they measure how much hemoglobin 1AC. So for example, there's a 5.6 or lower, that's normal. 5.6 or lower is normal. So you want to be under that. So it means there's not a lot of glucose attached to your hemoglobin molecules. Again, it represents 3 months. So it's supposed to be more accurate than a fasting blood sugar. And then there's a 5.7 to 6.4 is pre-diabetic, and 6.5 or greater is diabetic. And usually when, anyway, so it gives you an idea how well controlled you are. They call it control of your blood sugar. And that's why they run it often on people. So this is an example of one, and this is mine. So I'll go look at it. So the top one, going from left to right, was me about I'll say 3 years ago. And the hemoglobin 1AC, the normal is 4 to 6, it says. I was at 12.5. That's really high. And my blood sugar on the fast was 312. It's supposed to be under 100, you know. And I was 3.12 or 312 fasting. So Scott was 79. So I started working on it. I got married, and so I started paying more attention to this. You know, before I was, hey, you know, nobody cared. I was just working and had a bad lifestyle. I was just eating whatever I could eat, and I think I was always, I call on. Means you're on, so that means your body's always making insulin, always making glucose, because you don't know where you're going to be next. When you're going to get your next meal. And so, but after 3 years, and starting that diet, eating grains and nuts and vegetables and fruits, I finally was able to get it down on no meds to a 5.6 instead of 12.5, and the estimated glucose level was 114. So it was still a little bit high, but it's a lot better than 300. Yeah, so it is possible. I show that for one example for the labs, and it also shows an example of how you can control this. If you're watching what you're eating, trying to exercise, having a better lifestyle makes a difference. Okay, and then there's one more for lab testing. You test for diabetes with they call it a dipstick. I don't know if who's ever done it before. You can buy it over the counter probably. And that little dipstick, they dip it into the urine, and they look for the glucose that's spilled into the urine from your body. So, because like I said, when there's too much, it just spills into the urine, and then the urine, when you pee it out, it'll be there, and you have you have sweet urine. Yeah, so sometimes you see bugs going after people that have their urine because it's sweet, because it has sugar in it. And it also looks for ketones. So when a diabetic's really, really sick, so I mean really sick, they can't make use of their sugars, and the sugars are being spilled over, it'll start breaking fat down. And one of the byproducts of fat is ketones. Anybody here are ketones? I know Ken has. So that's called ketones. And it's a sweet smell. So the urine will have a sweet smell to it. That's how they used to do it when they didn't have dipsticks. And so they'll look for glucose and look for ketones. They don't use this hardly anymore because now you can get a lab strip and get a glucose number really quick. You don't need to test your urine. It was too imprecise because the spill rate, the threshold was different from different people. Where if you did it by blood, that's your number. Okay, so the treatment of diabetes, you want to start eating more natural fiber-rich foods to help stabilize the blood sugar levels. I would agree that's what it is. So you have to start eating more natural foods that have more nutrition. You don't want to eat foods that have no nutrition. You want to eat foods that have nutrition. It'll give you nutrients, and it'll stabilize it. So for example, foods that are more healthy tend to smooth out the blood fluctuations. You don't have these huge spikes going up and down. Like when I had that 312 on the fasting, that's because I ate the wrong foods. If I had something that would control that spike, it would help a lot. And it will also stabilize the energy level. So high fiber foods seem to smooth it out. Okay, so this was an interesting study. It just came out, and they were talking about diabetics eating 2 meals per day, and instead of 6 meals. It was done overseas. Sometimes when I see studies done overseas, I'm a little bit suspicious, but it got published on our journals because they looked that over and felt like, okay, we're going to take this up. We're going to believe in it. We're going to publish it. And so they ate 2 meals with the same number of calories and nutrients, and another group ate 6 meals per day, and they ate the same calories and the nutrients. And they found that the ones that ate only twice a day, for whatever reason, seemed to have better control of their sugars, their hemoglobin 1AC. So instead of eating 6 meals a day with the same amount of calories you're trying to ingest. So there is this thing of talking about 2 meals a day, and 2 meals a day almost classifies as intermittent fasting. Has anybody heard intermittent fasting? Yeah, so intermittent fasting. So 2 meals a day seems to work better than eating 6 meals a day. So, so also they found that, this is a different article. It was in Diabetic Medicine, American Journal of Medicine, Diabetic Medicine, and it said that if you eat a plant-based diet, it protects you against getting diabetes. And so they compared the plant-based diet versus the American Diabetic Association diet. So American Diabetic Association diet is well known. People, I mean, if you went to a nutritionist, they were educated on this. And so to not go with the American Diabetic Association diet is, well, or question it is you have to better have a good study to back it up. And this was published in a number of journals. And so a plant-based diet, they found that the plant-based diet beat the American Diabetic Association diet head-to-head without doing any calorie counting. So the plant-based diet didn't do calorie counting, and they ate what they wanted. Now, the American Diabetic Association diets always count their calories. They look at the food that you eat, and you add up the calories. They're always doing that. I know. I've been on it, and so they basically with the whole food plant-based diet did better than the American Diabetic Association diet, with no calorie restrictions. So you can eat as much plants as you want, plants-based foods. Those are beans and vegetables. So that was important. So one reason why is the processed food, there's less fiber in it. So the reason why we're concerned about it is if you eat a regular processed food like starch that's in a candy bar or donut or something, when you eat it, that sugar spike is huge. It just goes up very fast. But if you have fiber in it, it will slow it down and slow the conversion down. So you have a much smoother sugar rise. So fiber slows it down, and I was going to show you a reason why. Fiber is like whole grain foods, and the fiber is also wrapped around starch, and it controls the conversion to sugar. So what you're trying to do is slow the starch down so it doesn't convert to sugar that fast, and you'll have better control of your diabetes. And so whole grains get better, what they call glycemic control. So that's why, orange juices, a lot of times they take out all the fiber. It's like when I used to drink orange juice, I tried to have the fiber with me. The fiber has important nutrients in it. I guess we're just spoiled. We just filter it out and we throw it away and just say, okay, we don't need the fiber. Well, unfortunately, you do need the fiber. And so here's a picture of a starch. I think this is wheat. So you see the brown thing that's in there's the brown round thing. That's the bran, and it's the fiber. And then this is the starch. The same with rice and corn. So this is the starch, and the center is the wheat germ. So on a starch that's on wheat like this, where you don't have it processed, where you don't take the wheat and make it white flour, where you don't convert it to anything, where you just eat it like whole bran, whole wheat. It has this bran that surrounds it. It's fiber, so it slows it down, absorbs the sugars for you, so you don't have that high of a spike with this. So that's at least the anatomical reason why eating whole grains is better. So just another one, they counted the calories. So 3 pounds of apples, in terms of calories, they equal 4 ounces of chocolate, just as an example. And the same with 5 baked potatoes. 5 baked potatoes equal 5 ounces of steak. So the more natural foods they are, the less processed they are, you're going to be healthier. You're going to have less problems with this. And there's a word called glycemic index. A whole bunch of people said they heard of this before. So glycemic index is a measure to determine how fast the blood sugar level will rise up after you eat that specific food. So whatever you eat, there will be a rise in the blood sugar. So if certain foods don't have that fast of a rise, and certain foods have a fast rise, and you want to eat more of the low rising sugar levels, unless you want to add fiber to your diet, so the fiber will help absorb some of the sugar for you. So that's what they call the glycemic index. It's low, medium, and high. And they actually have numbers for it, like low is 55 or less, medium is 56 to 69, and high is 70. So they found the foods that were more refined, like in white flour, a donut, you know, like from Krispy Kreme or something, they're more refined. It has a higher glycemic index, so the sugars will spike really fast. And you have a low glycemic index diet will reduce the sugar levels and have a lower spike. And I'll just show you some examples of this. So these are glycemic index, GI. So for example, a baked potato, that's on the bottom here, has glycemic of 85. That's pretty high. Where if you ate, I don't know, cherries, it's 22. Apples, 38. Jelly beans is 80. So those are very high glycemic index. It doesn't mean you can't eat it. Some kids occasionally will eat a piece of candy, but you just don't want to eat it all the time. If you don't want to mess up your blood sugar. I mean, okay, so other treatments for diabetes, and I say this is it. Try to walk at least 20 minutes a day. Do some exercise where you walk 20 minutes a day. So we talked about this earlier. If you walked for like 4,000 steps to 6,000 steps, that's pretty good. And that's not a lot. 4 to 6,000 steps a day, if you walk that much, you'll have less chance to get diabetes. And if you have a cell phone, usually it can count the steps for you. It's not a lot to get that. Like if I do a normal work day, I can get about 4,000 steps. Yeah, and what it's equivalent to is about 20 minutes a day. So do you walk 20 minutes a day somewhere where you can try to lower your blood sugar? Anyway, walking helps, and it's, walking 20 minutes a day up here is equivalent to 5 units of insulin. And you should check glucose first thing in the morning right after you wake up. Cut out the refined items. Foods that are refined are not good for you. I mean, you can have it occasionally, but you just can't have it a lot of times. And make sure you have lose some weight, adequate sunshine to keep your vitamin D levels up, and get more sleep. So if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to have more trouble. And also drink adequate water. Water flushes the system out. And I was going to say this one too. There was another study. This came out JAMA. And JAMA, for doctors, if you can get your article published in JAMA, it means that they really scrutinized that article and they felt it was an accurate article. It was a good article they want people to learn. So what they found was people with type 2 diabetes who limited their eating to an 8-hour window each day. So you have type 2 diabetes, you limit it to 8 hours of eating per day. And then rather than trying to reduce your calorie intake, but just limit it to 8 hours a day, they lost more weight than the people that just try to count calories and try to limit their calorie intake. So in other words, if you eat during 8-hour window, so it's usually from 8 a.m. in the morning, whatever, and then 4 p.m. after that, don't eat anymore. And try to, distribute the food better. You actually lost more weight. And this subgroup of people that were eating only 8 hours a day wasn't even counting calories. So this is all comers, from eating meat to candy or whatever, versus the people that were eating all the time. Okay, so and one reason it is because of carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates contain fiber which slows the release of the starch from the food. And simple carbohydrates, like the refined sugars and stuff, are rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream. And so you want to eat complex carbohydrates, the ones that take longer to digest and break down. The simple ones that are refined, that's in your candy or your donut or whatever, or Pop-Tart, that's not good for you. Okay, this was another study. This is kind of about drinking diet soda. I don't know who drinks it. I did at one time. That was a long time ago, and I don't do it anymore. But anyway, they tracked 25,000 people, ages 40 to 79, over 11 years. It was a long-term study. And they had 25,000 people. They found that people that drank a single drink of soda versus regular water had more risk of developing type 2 diabetes. It seems to increase the amount of type 2 diabetes by 18% just by drinking regular soda or diet soda. So in other words, if you drink sodas or soda pops, you'll have more risk for type 2 diabetes. So I don't think anybody here drinks that. I know my sister does, but type 2 diabetes seem to be more prevalent with people that drink soda pop. Not good. Let's see. Okay, and then there was this study that came out. It was in Lancet. It's a pretty prestigious journal. It said they had 500 people, researchers, from 300 institutions in 50 countries come with this conclusion after they were studying why people were dying. So there was over 50 countries, 500 researchers trying to figure out why people were dying. And what they found was the biggest killer in the U.S. outside of exercise was diet. So you have to get your diet under control. And they felt the most important dietary risk was not eating enough fruits and vegetables. I guess I keep on harping on this thing about eating vegetables and fruit. You have to do it. And the best diet is ones that have fruit, vegetables, whole grains, and nuts. So eat a nutrient-dense diet, so things that are healthy, and eat healthy fats such as omega-3. Have people heard of omega-3? Usually in chia seeds and flaxseed, it helps with the brain, helps with antioxidants. So omega-3, not omega-6 or omega-9, but omega-3. And if you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you have more antioxidants. You use whole grains and limit refined sugars, fats, and salts. And don't drink alcohol or smoke. Okay. I'm going to talk about food labels. How many people look at food labels? Becky, you want to answer this one? Sorry. How many people? I'm sorry, I missed it. Wow, you do look at it. Food labels, okay. So this is a fruit label, or food label, nutritional facts. And so the one that I wanted to explain, so you can see these. This is the current FDA one. I wouldn't say FDA, but it's just the ones that manufacturers put it there. So it talks about saturated fats, which is not good for you. We talked about that before. Saturated fats, it means it's been basically oxidized. They've done something to alter it. So you don't want it if you can avoid it. And this particular food had like 38% of the daily requirements. And it also, the sodium wasn't too bad, only 13%. But, and it only had like 6 grams of added sugar. So remember, there's sugar there already, sugar that they added. So, and then they talk about the vitamins below. These are what I call the magic numbers. If you have 5% or lower or less, that's considered low in terms of how much the daily value is. So like with the sodium, it was only 13%, so that was kind of low. But 20% or higher is considered high. Like, for example, the saturated fats were like 38%. Here's another calorie thing. The one I wanted to show you, I don't know if you can see it, and I apologize. It says carbohydrates was, like 37 grams, but the total sugar was 12 grams, but that included 10 grams of added sugar. So there's 12 grams of sugar that were already there, and of that 12, 10 was added on. So you know they added a lot of sugar because, you know, people want sugar in their food. And I agree, I have it. So, and they comprise 20% of their daily requirements. So if you had 5 of those, you met your daily allowance for having sugar mixed in with you. So this shows you that, hey, start looking at how much added sugar. So I would go pick one that had like maybe like 1% added sugar, because I've seen that where the same item, I mean the same, like one was a corn tortilla, and one would say only added like 5 grams of sugar, and another one said they added 20 grams of sugar. So there's a big difference between those two. This is another one. This one says, look at how much sugar there is. The total sugar was 44 grams, and it included 44 grams of added sugar. So 100% of the sugar was added. It's 88%. And look at the ingredients that are in the product. I'll just read it for you. Sodium citrate, gum arabic, erythrosorbic acid, calcium disulfate. Like, you can't even pronounce the words. And so you know it's got to be something that you probably shouldn't intake. By the way, this was Mountain Dew. 44 grams of added sugar. And so you don't want that. It has 0 protein, and it doesn't have any fat. I guess that's the good news about it. So anyway, this is another food. It says total sugars was 61 grams, includes 40 grams of added sugar, 61 and 40. That's 79% of your daily requirements for sugar. And that's a Pop-Tart. And it has saturated fat of 8 grams. That's 41% of your daily requirements for fat, saturated fats. So read your labels. You'll notice things that maybe, hey, I shouldn't probably eat this. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about physical activity. There's a talk separate on that, but this physical activity thing is, I'm going to say start slow. You do several short walks, or 5 to 10 minutes a day. You only need about 20 minutes to walk per day. And so do slow walks, less intensity and less duration, and slowly increase it up to what you feel is comfortable. And you can, to get more calorie burning, you can walk quicker. Walking fast is a great way to get exercise. And remember, you don't have to just be walking. You can bike, swim, garden, or water aerobics, indoor rolling, those rolling machines. And they actually classified gardening, moderate gardening, is a moderate activity. They actually put that down. I was very surprised. So even gardening is a good way to do it. And exercise dampens the blood sugar spikes. And if just 20 minutes a day makes a big difference. So if you don't have to count the steps, just do 20 minutes. Again, I'm just going to say the single most predictor of longevity is physical exercise. That's the Surgeon General. And the Harvard alumni study show that 1 hour of exercise increases your lifespan by another 2 hours. So 1 hour exercise gives you 2 hours of life. Okay, and this is the last study here. So this one just came out. Let's see where it came from. Oh, I didn't see it. But it just came out. It said 2 or more servings of red meat per week may significantly raise your type 2 diabetes risk. So so when they were swapping out the red meat for plant-based proteins, they reduced the diabetes risk by 30%. That's 1 in 3. I realize it's not a huge number, but it's still a huge number, 1 in 3. So, and the plant-based food were tofu, nuts and seeds and legumes. And this was a study from the Harvard School of Public Health. that people who just eat 2 servings of red meat per week had increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to people who eat fewer servings of red meat. And they had 250,000 participants in it. I mean, yet 250,000 of people they studied on this thing, eating red meat. So those that ate the most red meat during this study time had a 62% risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to those that ate the least amount of meat. So if you eat red meat, you have like 62% risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So red meat is not good for you, mainly because I think it's the cholesterol. And if you eat processed red meat, so see on the right-hand side, this meat here is processed. It means it's like sausages, the deli foods, and stuff like that. If you eat that, a daily serving, each additional daily serving of processed red meat increases your risk of diabetes by 24%. So processed red meat is not a good choice neither. It's the worst. I'll take my chances with unprocessed if I had to. Meaning that is you got it from the butcher shop or something. And if you substitute the red meat for nuts and legumes, you had a 30% lower risk of diabetes. So I have to say, this study just came out. It really does. It came from Harvard. Not always the best, but still, it came out with something that said, hey, look, cut back on red meat. It's just 2 servings makes a difference. Okay, I'm going to say this too. No matter what you go on to reduce the risk, you still have to trust in God. Trusting in God makes a big difference in the outcome. And so it's important to pray, and it's important to ask for help, because this is hard to get rid of, put down the risk, and reverse diabetes. And so you have to trust God. And the other one I was going to say, you have to be patient. So those lab numbers that I showed for me, that took about 2.5 years to get that back, to get it down to what I call within reason, the numbers, where the numbers are way, way up there. I mean, I think the guy thought I was going to die in the office or something because the numbers are so bad. So you have to be patient. So this is not going to happen in 1 week or 1 month or 6 months or whatever. And, you just got to work at it. Okay. I'm going to say, if you have any suggestions for us, I would say either Becky or myself, or Scott and Wanda. We're working hard at that. We also want to make sure you compliment Bonnie for all the work he's been doing. And also, I didn't change the name, but we got Argel has been helping us to put this on streaming. And so it should be coming pretty soon on if you want to review this again for whatever reason. And other future ones, hopefully that'll get approved. And I'm going to pray before we, and then I'll open up to questions. Actually, I just want to make sure I pray first because I don't want to forget that. And that's important. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you very much for all your blessings. Thank you for allowing us to get together to learn more about diabetes so we can fight this with you, with your help, and get this under control and not have the complications that come with this. Thank you for all the things you do for us, and we praise you, and thank you for everything you do for us. In the name of Jesus, amen. Yeah.